The film begins with Reacher dropping off at a store where he plans to sell his vinyl. However, the buyer doesn't seem to be interested since it is an old vinyl, but Jack Reacher believes the buyer would be able to sell it easily since the store is located in a college town. However, just then, a vehicle pulls over just outside which easily draws Reacher attention, and just then, the very same vehicle proceeded to go into collision with another vehicle, before then storming off with gun to kidnap a young teenager inside the car. Immediately, Jack attempted to help, but this was followed by the goon pouring bullet towards his direction. Jack, seeing this quickly, waited until he starts to drive, and once he had his chance he began to open fire, which eventually led to the goon vehicle slamming another vehicle. Reacher eliminated the goon before going to get the kid, while also insisting they both leave immediately, as the goons will soon be arriving with more backup. Just then, a man ran toward Reacher's direction, and immediately Reacher shot him, but unfortunately for Reacher, the man was a federal agent. Quickly, Reacher took him out of the location, but unluckily for them, the cop began to chase after them. So after a short while, Reacher loses them. The two got to a secluded area to steal a vehicle. He requested the kid to make a call for help, and for him he is getting lost as he has just killed a cop with an unlicensed gun, but the young kid begged him for help, stating his dad could help him out in this mess, given the fact he had just shot a cop while trying to save his life. So Reacher in return seeks to know the kid's name, which he then replied stating his name is Zachary Beck. After a long conversation, Reacher agreed to Richard's request, after which they both drive together to Richard's home. Once they were at the gate, the bodyguard rudely requested that Reacher comes down to the vehicle for an inspection, but Reacher refused. However, Richard begged him,
"Please,"
which made him change his mind. During this, the bodyguard seems not to have any bit of manners. Once he was done with Reacher's check, the two went inside the house where Richard introduces Reacher to his family and the head of security named Chapman Duke. As soon as they were done, Reacher goes in to meet with Richard's father named Zachary Beck, and the two exchange pleasantries. He then offers Reacher a drink for saving his son's life, but Reacher doesn't accept. So during their discussion, Zachary asked Reacher what really happened at the scene. Reacher informed him that the guy Zachary hired to look after Richard was just too useless as it was an obvious attack, but he failed to figure it out until the last seconds, which nearly led to a successful kidnap by the goons. Reacher also requested all he need right now is a place to lie low for a few days, and then some money to buy a fake identity card for a clean start. Although Zachary believes this won't be easy, but after what Reacher did for his son, Zachary feels he is now indebted to Reacher, so he plans to think it over. Just as he proceeded to leave, Reacher took the glass cup of drink, before then revealing to Zachary that he gripped the cup firmly so Zachary can have a clear set of print to run. Zachary pleaded to Reacher not to get offended as he just needed to know who exactly he is. However, Reacher quickly reminded him that he was the guy who saved his son. Later, Reacher goes to meet with Richard in his room painting, and Reacher reveals to him that he is surprised his dad haven't come over to check his son, but Beck informed him that he already spoke to him on the phone. However, during this, Reacher is informed that Zachary Beck want to see him. Quickly, Reacher goes on to meet with Zachary, who in return informed Reacher that it seems he already made the news as the guy from the record shop from earlier seems to have given the cop a perfect description of him. But the only good news here is that such description could match any inside linebacker, so no one knows who Reacher is. Zachary also revealed to Reacher that they just concluded their own research on him, and to be sincere, they are very surprised and impressed about what they had found. Just then, Zachary instructed his right-hand man to drop Reacher's gun on the table, ordering him to play a Russian roulette. However, Reacher doesn't want to as it feels it illegal. Zachary explained to him that he need him to play, in order to see if he can follow orders. Reacher took the gun and began to play the game while also clicking the gun trigger for almost 4 times before Zachary quickly collects the gun from him, before then welcoming Reacher to the team. Just as they leave, Reacher requests for his gun from Chapman Duke, the head of security, but he refuses to hand it over to him. Just then, Reacher reveals to him that he is not crazy, and he knows that the gun didn't have any bullet in it. Quickly, Duke proves to Reacher that the gun was actually loaded, making Reacher shocked. Later on, Reacher is shown to his room, and once he was in, he began to look around to any hidden cameras. Once he was sure that there isn't any, Reacher brought out a phone from his shoe, before making a call to inform the person at the other end that he is in. The scene then shifted to a few days earlier, where Reacher is just seated at the roadside. During this, he noticed a suspicious activity from a young boy, trying to steal, so he goes to stop the kid. He talked the kid out of the act before then giving him money and requesting he go get a job. However, just then, Reacher found a young man in the street who he believed to be dead. Quickly, Reacher make a phone call to the 110th Special Investigators, requesting to speak to the CO immediately, but unfortunately, they inform Reacher that Major Turner isn't available. He asked the officer in charge that once she is available, she should call him ASAP, but the officer reveals to him that she won't be available until next 2 weeks, so Reacher give the officer an assignment to make a research on someone for him. At night, while Reacher was home, he heard a knock at his door claiming to be the federal agent. So quickly, he escaped through his window, but unfortunately for Reacher, he got caught by Susan Duffy. Afterwards, they all sat for a long conversation about a federal investigation about a rug import business called Bazaar, and the DEA feel it isn't only rug they are supplying in the United States. Just then, they show Reacher a picture of Zachary, asking if he knows him, but Reacher stated that he doesn't know him. However, they pleaded for his help, but firstly, before he could help them, Reacher asked them to find a person for him. Days after, they brought informing about the person Reacher asked for, who happens to be Xavier Quinn, a corrupt military intelligence officer who was into some deeply unsavory stuff until he found himself shot in the head and tossed from a cliff into the sea, but he survived. And he now has something to do with Zachary Beck and his rug company named Bazaar. Just as Reacher and Susan walked for a private conversation, she revealed to Reacher that she sent a well-liked agent named Teresa Daniels undercover in Beck's operation to find out what he was really importing and exporting, and she hasn't been seen since. Duffy's essentially off the grid at this point and is willing to use Reacher to unofficially get inside in order to find out where Teresa is and hopefully track down Quinn for his own satisfaction. So to be able to execute such plan, she plotted to engineer Richard's kidnapping and have Reacher become the savior in all this. As days passes by, the team continued to make the perfect plan for this mission, and it was then Steven agreed to be the shooter. He practiced how to make everything look real, even with a fake bullet. Even the plan to kill a cop was also part of the plan, in order to cancel the idea of going to a cop to report the kidnap case. Back to the present day, Reacher promised Susan to go check the place out for anything suspicious once everyone was asleep. At midnight, Reacher proceeded with a mission by using the roof to make an entry. Afterwards, he went into the building where he played the Russian roulette earlier for more further investigation. On reaching there, he found an underground building with a fresh food. So quickly, he called Susan to inform her that Teresa isn't in the building any longer, seems she has been moved. Meanwhile, after the call with Reacher, Susan approached Zachary bodyguard who was in charge of taking care of Richard to furiously question him about Teresa. However, Guillermo intervened while also insisting that she keep her cool. Back to Reacher, Reacher makes his way to his room. In the process, he starts listening to Beck's head of security, Duke, talking to someone and making his way to his room. Immediately, Reacher runs toward his room as he climbs the entire house from the outside to make his way inside. So when Reacher doesn't open his door after knocking continuously, Chapman barges inside and sees the window open. Initially, he feels that Reacher ran away, but the next moment, he sees him coming out of the bathroom. He informed Reacher that they got some information about the vehicle used in the attempted kidnap of Richard Beck, so he need Reacher to go investigate more on it. Quickly, Reacher called to inform her about this, insisting that she reach the location where the truck is quicker to get rid of Richard's car, because if Bex finds a car, they get to know about everything. As Reacher was the only one besides Richard who saw the truck, the official story is that, before trying to get Richard into the pickup truck, the kidnappers set off an explosion in Beck's car, thereby killing the driver. So, technically, there should be a lot of blood and brains in that car. So if the car is found by Beck and his goons, he will get suspicious of Reacher, and the entire plan could be jeopardized. Duffy Susan rushes to the location to get Beck's car out of there before Jack and Angel Doll reach there. While getting to the location, Angel Doll continues to talk a lot, but the important piece of information that Jack extracts from all that chattering is that Zachary Beck isn't the boss. There's someone else pulling the strings. Just as Duffy struggles to get the car out of the location, Reacher and Angel Doll arrived at the location. Once they were inside, the informant tries to bribe the cop at the reception so that he can gain access in order to take pictures of the truck. However, the cop refuses, so the informant begins to pull out his gun. So quickly, Reacher punches him in the face, knocking him unconscious. Afterwards, both of them reach inside the yard to find the truth. The informant began taking pictures of the truck. Unfortunately, on his way out, he stops when he takes a look at the car that looks exactly like Richard's car. He tells Reacher that the car looked exactly like the Richard vehicle that was hit during the attempted kidnapping. Since Duffy has switched the plates, Jack claims that it's a different car and not the one that Beck's driver was driving. Plus, there are thousands of cars similar to this in the city, and it might be possible that it was someone else's car. Once they were done, Angel Doll dropped Reacher off at Beck's home, but on getting to his room, he found the maid named Annette coming out of his room, which Reacher found suspicious, given the fact that the room doesn't even need cleaning. After the short conversation, Reacher tried to sleep, but Zachary knocked and get into Reacher's room, informing him that there is work to do. However, just as Zachary leaves, he goes to meet his son, promising him the kidnap thing would never happen again. Nearby, PAULIE and Reacher meet at the gym. PAULIE asks him about how much he benches, to which Reacher says that he is not a big fan of working out. For him, it doesn't prove how strong a man is. As a result, he tells PAULIE to play a little game that would seemingly prove who has more strength. So PAULIE tries to bait Jack into fighting him, but Jack uses his wits to get PAULIE to hurt himself. Just as a fight was about to ensue, Chapman arrived to stop them. Duke assigns a bizarre truck to Jack, tells him to deliver its contents to a location in New London, Connecticut. The truck will be tracked via GPS so that Jack can't take any detours, and he isn't allowed to check what's inside the container. Jack calls up Duffy and says that this whole thing is a test to see if he can be trusted, yet they need to look into what he is transporting. So he tells her to bring her team and meet him at a gas station where they can examine the goods in the truck while making it seem like Jack is getting a coffee. A moment later, they all arrived and immediately, they proceeded to do in accordance to their plan while bringing an experienced dog, but after a short check, they realized nothing was in the truck, proving this was a loyalty test. After a short while, Reacher arrived at the drop-off location to deliver the rugs, before taking another truck back to the warehouse. Once he was back, he finds the same informant from earlier, and the two engage in a long conversation, where he reveals to Reacher that he feels and believes Reacher is trying to fool everyone and isn't who he claims to be. Just as he was about to inform Duke about the whole stuff he found about Reacher, Reacher bangs his head on one of the tables and kills him. Reacher adjusts his body underneath the table and meets Duke outside the warehouse before saying Angel talks too much. The episode 2 then came to an end. Kindly subscribe for more episode upload. Thanks for watching and goodbye.